What's up everybody? Welcome back to my channel. For those of you who don't know, my name is Keisha Jackson and I love to do makeup, so why not do it on YouTube? This time though, I've decided to try a little something different. I had been watching this really cool makeup artist named Bailey Sarian. I'm going to leave her details in the description box down below. She does this thing called Murder, Makeup and Mystery, and I thought it would be really cool to do a South African version of that. Let's hope it goes well. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to tell you a story, and while I'm telling you the story I'm going to do my makeup at the same time. I will list whatever I use in the description box down below, as well as the prices and where you can find them. Let's try it out. I do just want to put a disclaimer in the video. Viewer discretion is advised. The stories that I might be telling are a little bit gruesome, and I've decided to do it on South African killers, not necessarily serial killers, because some of the serial killers in South Africa are like... And I just want to let everyone know that the information I've gotten is purely from the internet. It is purely my opinion. I don't want anyone to think that these are facts. So I'm going to try to use the word allegedly a lot of the time. I'm really nervous to tell this story because when I told people I was going to do this, they were like, you got to be aware that all your facts are straight and you don't want to be accused of anything. But I'm going to tell you the story of South Africa's very first woman serial killer. The story takes place around 1886, 1880s, 1890s. It doesn't really go past there. Like, it spews off into the early 1900s, but nothing further than that. So the story is of one Miss Daisy de Melker. I know that might ring a lot of bells with South African people because she was allegedly a psychopath. Daisy de Melker was born June 1886 in Grahamstown. It's a little town in the Eastern Cape, I think it is. Not very far. She was one of 11 children because people didn't have much to do back then. And in her early years, so it said that, like the information I found about her, it said that she grew up in a really normal home. Her upbringing was normal. Nothing like to worry about. And that's so crazy because usually serial killers are like, they've had a tormented past or an abusive childhood, or they just didn't have a very solid upbringing. She, on the other hand, did. So I don't really know what happened to her mom. There was not much information about her mom, but in the early years of her life she had moved to Zim with her dad, who was a farmer, and it was like a pretty rural upbringing because, I mean, you're on the farm and what else is there to do? So for her early childhood, like her early years, going to school and stuff, she had done that in Zim. And then when she was done with school, she was like, well, I don't like this farm lifestyle, this rural lifestyle. I'm gonna just pack up and go back to South Africa. So once she was done with school, she wanted to study. And this is when she came back to South Africa. I think it was Durban to be exact. She went to Durban and she studied to be a nurse. When she was done with her studies and everything, she was like, oh, I've got to go visit my dad, you know, see how he's doing. So she went back home to Zim for a little holiday and of course to catch up with her family. and her 10 other siblings. And there she met the first man that would be involved in her life. She was like 20, 21, so this was in 1907. She met this man. His name was Bert Tula. I don't know if my pronunciation of him is correct. Anyway, she was 21 when she met him, and he was quite a bit older than her. I think 10 or 11 years older than her. So she had fallen in love, and she was like, oh, well, now I'm in love, I can do this rural lifestyle thing. Let's try it out. So they had been going out for quite a while and planning their wedding, and they were going to get married, and it was all cool. And then unfortunately, Bert contracted blackwater disease, and he had passed away. Now, because they were like getting married and she was deemed as his fiancé, he had left her a little bit of money, like a small amount. I don't know back then if it was euros or pounds, but he had left her like £295 or euros or whatever it is. And she was like, oh, well, there's nothing left in Zim for me besides her whole family. She's going to go back to South Africa now, and she's going to continue working and making money and doing her own thing. So she went back to South Africa, and like 18 months after her first love died, she had met another man. In March of 1909, she met a man by the name of William Alfred Cowell. Now this was like, bear in mind please, 18 months after Mr. Bert passed away from blackwater disease. She had met Mr. Cowell, who was also her senior. She was 22 at the time and he was 36 in March of 1909. So she met and married. Now she's like, oh, I'm not going to waste any more time, because what if he croaks as well? Let me just marry him. So they go on to marry each other. William worked as a plumber while she worked as a nurse, of course, because that's what she studied for. And together the couple would go on to have 5 children. But now, 4 of these 5 children passed away. The first set, I say set because they were twins, they passed away at infancy. They died at birth. It doesn't really say why, but it just states that they died at birth. Now, the third child had passed away from an absence of the liver. Now, it's 1909, 1910, so these things happened back then. There were no like crazy hospitals or NICUs or whatever to help kids out. The fourth had died of convulsion and bowel trouble, and that baby had died at 15 months old. So all that Daisy and William were left with was their 5th child, whose name was Rhodes Cecile, and he was born June of 1911. So years go by, they all living their happy life. William's a plumber. Back in the early 19s, plumbing was a real good job to have, because, I mean, what else do we do? And Daisy was looking after their son, and I don't think she worked back at that stage. It didn't seem like she was working. It seems like she was just a stay-at-home mom, looking after the son, taking care of the house, and all that good stuff. So the morning of January 11th, 1923, 12 years after they had gotten married and have had all their kids and everything, William falls ill. Wow, what? He's still quite young. I think he was like 46 or 47 at the time. So he falls ill. And Daisy's like, oh, damn it. Then we call the doctor. The doctor comes in for a house call. And the doctor's like, I don't really see much wrong. So the doctor clears him. The doctor's like, there's nothing wrong with him. Just take this medication. And no questions were asked about why he's feeling sick. Later, the doctor finds that he had fallen sick because Daisy had prepared Epsom salts for him because he was feeling like irritated or nauseous or something was happening, and she had prepared Epsom salts for him. Don't understand, like, why are we falling so ill because of Epsom salts? So she is like, okay, that's cool. I'll nurse my husband back to health myself because I am a nurse, so it won't hurt to just help the poor man out a little. Now 2 weeks go by and William seems okay. He seems like he's recovering and he's doing well and everything's fantastic. Wow. He recovered. It's a miracle. One day he wakes up and he's just like, oh, yeah, it goes again. I don't feel good. I don't know what to do. He's having a total freak out because he needs to go to work and he can't go to work because he's feeling sick. So Daisy's like, okay, cool. I'm just going to call the neighbours and they're going to call their doctor and we're going to get to the bottom of this. Now William's like, okay. We call the neighbours, the doctor comes over, and at this point William can't even be touched because every time someone touches him, he's like in excruciating pain. He wants to die when you touch him. And the doctor's like, I don't really understand. Anyway, unfortunately, William passes away. Now, the doctor that the neighbours had called was like, I'm going to examine him, do a autopsy, and I'm going to check out why this poor man was screaming. So the doctor said he would not sign the death certificate because he had suspected poisoning. Poisoning. Like, where did that come from? From Epsom salts to I'm fine, I'm going back to work, to I'm dying when you touch me. Something's up there. So the doctor didn't sign the death certificate. I'm assuming another doctor came in, signed the death certificate. We all moved on from this because Daisy had gotten a payout from her husband. Something to the tune of £1,795 or euros. I don't know what it was back then. Please correct me. I know I'm wrong. So she had gotten quite a bit of money. She was like, yeah. So the autopsy results had come back and it said that William had suffered from chronic kidney inflammation and a cerebral hemorrhage. Must have been some real good Epsom salts. So she's like inherited her bucks now and she's like, whew, gotta find a new husband because can't go through life by myself. 3 years to the day. She likes doing things to the day because remember Bert had passed away and then 18 months to the day that he passed away she remarried this poor William guy, and now William passed away in 3 years to the day that William passed away. She meets and marries Robert Sprout. Robert? She meets and she remarries Robert Sprout. Now, Mr. Sprout is also a plumber. And guys, you can't tell me in South Africa, in Johannesburg, back then, there were only plumbers to marry. I don't think that's a thing. Anyway, Sprout was 36 at the time. No, Daisy was 36 at the time, and Sprout was quite a bit older than her, 46, so 10 years older than her. So we see a pattern. She likes old plumber dudes. Cool. They probably have a lot of money. Anyway, Robert and Rhodes, her son, they had gotten along well. There was no like step drama over there, so they were cool. Everything was fine with the two of them. And it seemed the same way with Daisy. She had just found her oomph again. She married this man. Everything was good. Everything was cool. So this was in 1923 when William died. So 3 years after that, 1926, she meets and marries Robert Sprout. In October of 1927, that's like a year, not even, like 9 months, he falls violently ill. And why I say violently is because he was having kind of the same symptoms as her first husband, William, but it was never confirmed that it was like definitely. In October of 1927, he falls ill and he recovers. Just like William recovered, he recovers. For 2 weeks, he's fine, he's spunky, he's ready to go. 2 weeks after he recovers, he has a second spell. So he's like feeling shit again. And he says, oh no, something's not up. This time, he fell ill because Daisy had given him a beer. Like after a hard day of work, let's chill, let's have a dope. It's gonna be lekker. No. He gets real sick. And dies. So he fell sick first in October of 1927. 2 weeks later, he was okay. The 6th of November, 1927, Robert Sprout dies. Now, the doctor comes in, a different doctor. I'm assuming she called a different doctor because she wouldn't call the same doctor. Because then he's going to be like, why are all your husbands dying? What are you preparing? So the autopsy comes back and it said that Robert had suffered from loss of elasticity in the walls of his arteries. So they were just like not moving like this. They were not elastic, they were real stiff. So I'm assuming it would lead to like a blood clot or whatever it was. He died from loss of elasticity in his arteries. Now she knows what's coming. Her inheritance is coming because she looked after this man. They had a great life together. Everything was good and fun, and so she inherits something to the tune of 4,000 rand. I'll just say rand from now on. Back in the early 1900s, back in the early 1900s, 4,000 rand was like a fortune. You were like a queen if you inherited this amount of money. So she inherits this money. She's still staying in the first house she was in with William. All her husbands are coming and going from this house that she had. 4 years later, she marries Sydney de Melker, who is also a plumber. It doesn't say much about her husband, this husband. Now remember the son, Rhodes Cecile. Around this time, he was 20, turning 21. Now, I researched, and back then, the legal age for you to get your inheritance from a relative that had passed is 21 years old. Keep that in mind. In February of 1932, Miss de Melker travels from her home in Germiston, which to this day is still standing with people occupying it, all the way to Turfentine to obtain arsenic from a chemist. Now, back in the early 1900s, it was a thing to buy arsenic because a lot of people used it to get rid of animals. It's so crazy to me. So she travels on a lovely day in February. Weather's cool. Everything nice. Sydney's plumbing. Rhodes is at work. She's like, Okay, I'm off to the pharmacy because I need to go get some arsenic. So now the crazy thing is, she goes to this pharmacy and she says, okay, I need this arsenic to get rid of my sick cat. And the pharmacist is like, oh no, that's cool, sorry about that. Sure, yeah, some arsenic. Now the crazy thing is, Daisy had used her previous married name, which was Sprout, to obtain the arsenic from this chemist. She never used her current surname, which was Melker. Anyway, she obtains this arsenic, she goes back home, everything is cool. A week later, so a week after she obtained the arsenic from the chemist pharmacy, her son falls ill. Damn, poor Rhodes, because it seems like it's your only child, because you had lost the 4 other kids, So he falls ill after drinking coffee that his mom had prepared for him in a flask to take to work. Now here's the kicker. He takes the flask to work, and his friend, who's also named William, which is really weird, also has some of this coffee. And he also falls ill, but not as ill as poor Rhodes. So he's like, oh damn, what the hell? Anyway, so the co-worker, he recovers, but Rhodes doesn't, and he dies. He died on the 5th of March, 1932, just shy of his 21st birthday. I mean, playing of days properly, Daisy. Like, really? You don't want to make it that obvious now. So at this point, her husband, Sydney, has no idea. No one knows any of her other husbands have passed on. But they are like, damn, poor Rhodes. But now people are like, so you drank, they're telling his co-worker now, so you drank, it would be so, I didn't know much about Rhodes. It didn't say if he was a plumber or anything, but that would be like the kicker. So people are like, but William, the friend, had also had some of this coffee and he didn't fall as ill, so what the hell's going on now? So a couple of days go by, nothing is really happening about this. The autopsy comes back stating that Rhodes had died from a cerebral hemorrhage, just like her previous 2 husbands. So now we are like, something's fishy at this household. What's happening? So it was alleged that Daisy had poisoned her son because he was expecting to inherit quite a bit of money from his dad. And he was like wanting more of what Daisy had taken from him, apparently, allegedly. By the time, now it's 1932, word travels. The world wasn't as widely populated as it is now. So word is now traveling, and now, it's so crazy. William Cal was her first husband. William was the name of Rhodes' co-worker, and Robert's brother, her second husband, remember him? Robert's brother's name was also William. So it's a world full of Williams and plumbers, apparently. Now, William is like, these men that are coming into contact with this woman are just falling down like flies. So he goes to authorities and he's like, something is up in this household, we gotta check her out and stuff, And authorities back in that day were like, woman? A threat? What world are you talking of? That a woman could kill a man? let alone 2, let alone 3. Anyway, so authorities are like, okay, cool. Well, we're going to investigate it, but I can tell you nothing's going to come from it. Now, like I said, it's the early 1900s. Word travels. So this case is becoming like public knowledge now because... Did you hear about this woman that might have killed her husband? But we don't know if she did. So authorities are like, okay, we're going to exhume all these bodies and we're going to check out what's happening, with it still being in the back of their minds. And then also, like, back in the South African days, it wasn't like known that there were serial killers, and well, from what I've read in history, it wasn't known that there were serial killers, let alone ones that were like doing it in such a public, open way. So the case was bringing a lot of attention to Daisy. She was just trying to live her normal life. So the bodies are exhumed. All 3 of them, like, coming out of the ground. We're gonna do an autopsy again to figure out if Mr. William Sprout is like being truthful. So the bodies get exhumed by authorities on the 15th of April 1932. Not long, like 3 weeks to a month after Rhodes had been allegedly poisoned. Well, it's not alleged anymore because, like, there's straight up hard facts now that this poor kid was just trying to have a great day at work. Anyway, so the bodies of William Cowell, Robert Sprouts, and Rhodes Cecile get exhumed and examined. And this is where it gets like heavy. Now remember, William's autopsy came back and the first doctor was like, I suspect poison. And I'm not going to sign this because something really dirty has gone on here. He apparently had kidney inflammation or it was kidney inflammation and a cerebral hemorrhage. All 3 of them had that thing in common, by the way. Because Rhodes had passed away much sooner, his body was still fresh. They had done his autopsy first. And now, in his body, like in his bones, arsenic was found. Now, remember how I said the case had become public knowledge because everyone knows everyone's business. Now, because they're like, Daisy DeMelker's husbands and kids' bodies are getting exhumed, and there may be traces of arsenic in there. The pharmacist is like, I know that lady. I've seen that chick walking around Turffontein. She came into my pharmacy, but her name was not Daisy DeMelker, her name was Mrs. Sprout. Authorities had caught on that, oh shit. So they questioned the pharmacist and they're like, you say you've seen her? And the pharmacist is like, yeah, I've seen her. She came in to get arsenic. So they're like, there we go, we have evidence, we have a witness. She definitely obtained arsenic from this pharmacy. So the arsenic was found in his vertebrae, in his hair, in his finger bones. So now they're like, okay, so we know that this poor man, Rhodes, has got some arsenic going on in his body. But what did the other 2 have? So Robert and William had been poisoned via stringin. Anyway, it was a type of poison that had, back in the day, the definite giveaway that you had used this poison was that it was coloured pink. So their bones were both stained pink. So imagine how much poison she had to use for them to be stained pink. The kicker is still coming. I was like, this is disgusting, This evidence is for sure gonna put her away for like life, death, whatever it is. Their bones were so discolored, and it was just not a nice scene, because when people are poisoned, their bodies are somewhat preserved for a period of time, and it was like, they must have been poisoned because like. So these 3 men, poor men, they were now reburied, and the cops off to Mr. Melker's house in Germiston, and like, your time is up, ma'am. It's time for you to go. So they place her under arrest. One of the greatest things anyone could have done at that time. And she's like not saying anything. She's not admitting to anything. Nothing is really happening. I just had to finish my lashes off camera because, talking and then trying to apply them, it never works. Authorities arrest Miss Melker. Now, I couldn't really find any information on what her current husband at that time, which was Sydney Melker, had thought about all of this. I'm assuming that he was scared shitless, because I would be too. So the trial had lasted a total of 36 days, just over a month. One of the longest trials ever. There were 12 jurors or something back in that day. Now here's what upset me about this whole thing. Besides the fact that she's killing men that are providing for her and looking after her, and that for me was like, okay, there's a lot of hectic women out there that do this sort of stuff. But this is what got me about this case, is the fact that she was only found guilty on 1 count, which was killing her son, because there was substantial proof that she killed her son, because the pharmacist had identified her and had said she came in on this day and she did obtain arsenic from my chemist, and she was not found guilty on the count of murdering William Cowell and Robert Sprout, because there was not enough evidence stating that she had did this. She was the only person that had such close contact with the both of them. First, to poison him via Epsom salt. This was Mr. William. Allegedly. Now I have to say allegedly, because she was not found guilty on this. Allegedly to poison her first husband. You're given a beer after your day of work. Hard work. Providing for this woman. You're like, yeah, I'm just going to go home to my beautiful wife. I'm going to have a beer with her. We're going to chill. So, poor Robert and William will never know who killed them or anything like that. I mean, they just fell ill, and it was the most mysterious thing in the world. Judgment finally comes to be charged with the murder of her son Rhodes. And the judge is like, we have enough evidence to confirm that Daisy killed her son by poisoning him with arsenic, and her charge was first-degree murder. So, this was in 1932. Back in the 1930s, if you killed someone, you'd die for it. A life for a life, basically. It was very brutal, but well-deserved. So now, right, she's like, the country knows, shit, this woman has killed her son and possibly her husband as well, which is, in my personal opinion, I can't say personal opinion and then follow it by it's factual that she killed these people, but facts are facts. I feel like she definitely poisoned her husbands. Not the first love of her life, that poor old Bert Teller guy. Who knows? Maybe he didn't die from black water fever. Maybe he did. On the 30th of December 1932, Daisy DeMelker was condemned to death by hanging. Now, I read on some articles, like as well as Wikipedia, that she was condemned to a public hanging. I don't know how true this is. I couldn't really find any pictures of her being hung. I think that would be a terrible thing to look at. She got hung on the 30th of December 1932. And people were like, your time is up now. Got to get this show on the road. You've been doing this for way too long. Since 1923, that was the date that William died, I think it was. Let me make double sure. 1923, William fell violently ill. Yeah, so 1923 all the way up to 32, sorry. She's been doing this. Poor Sydney. Like, what does he think about it? What did he think about it? There wasn't much on him, like I said before, so I couldn't really dig deep into Sydney. But I actually found that he passed away when he was 69 years old. So she didn't kill him, thank the Pope. But to this day, I think I said it before as well, her house still stands. It's not a tourist attraction. Like, people don't go and visit it and be like, oh, this is where she poisoned people. But people are living in it. There's people renting it. I don't know if it was sold or who's renting it. People are still renting that home. Like, I'd be so scared to sleep in there at night. Like, especially if I was a man. She clearly didn't like men. I don't know, maybe she didn't like men, maybe she liked money. She didn't inherit much from... I don't think she inherited anything from her son's death, because he couldn't even inherit the money himself. So she just accumulated money from her other husbands over the years. But like I said, I don't think that would be... Maybe it is. I don't think that would be a valid enough reason for you to be brutally poisoning. And I say brutally because, I mean, if your bones are stained with this poison, it's a bit hectic. That's how the cookie crumbles. Anyway, to this day, Daisy DeMelker is still known as South Africa's very first woman serial killer. What a title to have. What a title to have. And it's so crazy because, like, there's no, I can't even say legacy because that's weird. There's no people, like, that are still alive directly related to her. No one knows what's happened to her family. We don't know if they had passed on back in Zim or if they had come back to South Africa and checked some things out this side. It's just like a story that got justice halfway, 50%. I can't even say 50%. Like 10% justice in my eyes. Anyway, that's the story of Daisy DeMelker, South Africa's very first woman serial killer. I hope you enjoyed this video. I am going to leave baby Sarian's details in the description box down below. She is the makeup artist that has inspired me to do these stories, and I think it was really fun. I enjoyed doing it. Maybe I missed that. But I enjoyed doing it. I am going to do some more. I think I'm going to call this segment True Crime Tuesdays. Maybe upload once a week. We do have enough crime stories in South Africa to do that. But that's that, guys. I just want to leave by saying that I hope people are staying safe. I want people to remember that there's still a pandemic happening out there. It's not a holiday. Stop going and seeing people for no reason. Stay home and stay safe.